Hello, everyone. Welcome to We've Got Company. So, in this podcast, what we're looking to do is we're looking to dive into common phrases, tropes, overall weirdness, usually overlooked in films, right? Film, television, pop culture, all those kinds of things. So, to get started, I just want to introduce, I'm here with my co-host. He is basically my best friend. He's like my brother. I've known him for 32 years, and he's a guy that I share a brain with. He is my co-host, Dan. What's up, Dan?
From parts unknown, here we are. We have arrived.
Yes. What do you got in your background there?
It's just normal, just normal cool stuff that only cool guys have. You know what I mean?
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
The hat is like a Freddy Krueger hat.
That actually isn't mine. That's my girlfriend's. I wish I did. I should have put something cooler on there. Like I got a Thor's hammer though, so that's.
I think.
That's
Did you make that Thor's hammer?
I did. Yeah. It's
right. So
an endeavor.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, we have this podcast that we're trying to get off the ground and talk about some cool stuff. And obviously, the first thing we should do, it's just appropriate. Our first podcast should be about our title, right? And it's called
absolutely.
We've Got Company, right? And it's basically about how, this term, this trope, whatever you want to say, is in a billion action movies across the planet Earth. And it doesn't seem to be letting up. They are still using it and nobody talks about it. So I'm going to pass it over to my co-host, and he's going to start us off, and we're going to get going.
Yeah, one of many phrases in any film or whatever kind of work of fiction that just kind of we've gotten used to as a phrase that people say, as a method of describing enemies awaiting, or like a whole armada is headed to you, and you just kind of are like, "Well, we've got company," and then you take care of it. And it's the kind of thing that I doubt has ever actually been spoken in real combat. But
Ever.
It's interesting. No, I mean, if anyone said it, it has to have been on like the most positive note ever, and not probably when actual battle is about to occur.
Right.
But in doing,
or usually as a joke, like because it's been used so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
People have said it as a joke, but nobody says it in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's like when in doing research for this episode, I really like in seeing how many times it's been spoken is kind of insane, because it's become such a throwaway line that now when you hear it, you can't help but question the kind of screenwriter's ability, because when looking through the catalog of films it's been in, we're talking Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Hellboy, Star Wars, in video games, almost every Resident Evil, I think, Star Fox 64, Halo. It's, I think, actually in every Call of Duty game that's ever been released. As far as back in movies, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, both Batman and The Dark Knight. Guess that's kind of cool. And Finding Nemo.
That gives it validity.
And these are. I feel like I said a lot of names, but these are actually a very few in terms of the scope of this.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's montages that have been made that are like all over the internet of just this word or this phrase being said in a billion movies.
Yeah, there's a great compilation online. Actually, we should put the link in the description down below.
I know what you're talking about, and I've seen it. And
yeah, it's really good, and it's kind of shows you how often it's been spoken, and it really kind of makes you think about like in terms of screenwriting, like when you're writing a movie now, at what point do you just go like, well, they're going to say we've got company when the
I feel like it's like a fuck it moment.
It has to be.
Yeah, like they're writing, and then there's like, well, there's obviously a chase in this scene, and they're like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna say what everybody else says, and we're just gonna put it in the movie because
I'd imagine, like, if anything, like, I don't know what else you're supposed to write in the place of that. I think you would just have to be like, "Oh no," or something along that line, just because
But
there's.
that's way more realistic. If you
Yeah,
just say,
I almost would prefer screaming. Like if someone just
right,
literally just started just ah,
right, right, right,
ah,
right, right,
like
right.
just started screaming when more people came, just because it's usually like in the heat of gunfire and explosions are happening, and then a cavalry comes in a jet and everyone's just kind of like, oh, we got company,
And
and
it's
it's
like, yeah,
just a kind of a throwaway
it's
line.
kind of so that's it. I think that's you just hit it. I think it's a throwaway line, and I think that screenwriters, they just see it as some, or maybe it's something that's like so been overused at this point that it's like gospel. Like you have to have it in a film. It's almost like
Yeah.
you're missing something if it's not in an action film.
Right, like it's almost kind of like catchphrases in general become these kind of hardline things that you can insert into like a film to declare how serious you're supposed to take it. It's like a little levity in an action film. It's just kind of I I saw a film yesterday called The Colony. Have you ever seen this?
I don't know if I've ever seen that.
It's with Lawrence Fishburne. I don't want to do too many spoilers on here, but I will say, like, the screen
I don't
sometimes.
know if anybody really cares about this
Yeah, it's a
specific
movie.
movie.
It was released in 2013. If you
If
guys
I didn't
want to
hear
catch
about
it,
it, because
yeah,
I'm a huge movie nerd as you are, the same,
yeah.
I I can almost guarantee that nobody gives a shit about the spoilers that you're about to say
Yeah.
about this
So,
Lawrence Fishburne movie.
well, it's like it's not even so much that the story beats matter as much as it is that when you watch certain films, you kind of can. It's almost like you're watching the influences of the screenwriter. So watching the movie, you're kind of like, oh, well, this like movie really wants to be 28 Days Later. So it
Mm,
has all these kind of story beats that 28 Days Later will have, and it's just kind of an interesting, weird framework to see a screenwriter's pure influences and the amount of like the amount they take from it to from catchphrases to
right.
music used or anything like that.
Is Lawrence Fishburne the star?
uh well, Lawrence Fishburne's in it as well as Bill Paxton, RIP, and that's it. That's pretty much it.
And so what you're saying is they obviously used it.
Well, it just has it's actually, I don't know if it's spoken in that movie. It's more just the idea that the influences of the screenwriters are so transparent.
Right.
You look at a film and it follows beat by beat what this other movie's doing, uh, without any, it's a very different movie, but still kind of winds up being very similar in terms of the story beats.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's probably what it is, right? It's like people, these screenwriters, they're writing these movies, and they're influenced obviously by things that they've seen, and then all of these things that their influences, are come into their writing, and it's like inevitable, right?
Yeah.
And we, as viewers, as watchers and nerds and whatever of these things, we almost like disregard it. Like it's just like,
Oh yeah.
it's like, okay, but
Yeah.
but when you have people like us that dissect everything, we're like, wait, that's not okay. I want to talk about it, because why the
Yeah.
hell is it in every freaking movie or action movie? Say something different.
Well, you would think also that, like, I usually I would think if any of these have taken a class or two on screenwriting, like at some point they have to, there has to be some sort of lesson on avoiding tropes, right? Like that has to be something that you're told at some point. Like you might want to avoid kind of doing the same thing that maybe 200 screenwriters have done before you. So it's interesting that, but that being said, yeah, how many action movies come out nowadays that are essentially the same? I mean, Fast and the Furious releases the same film every year for, I
every
think,
every year.
yeah, I think almost a decade now. So,
Right. And
uh,
I'm sure they have said it.
you know, I didn't even think to like go over those movies, but like I'm just gonna say it's in it. Like I'm just assuming that line is
You know
100%
what?
in
And
at least one of the Fast and the
we should
Furious.
do research, and it would be amazing. Because if any movie should have it, it should be all of them,
Yeah,
right?
it should
Because
be every single one of
right,
them.
because there's 250 of them. So,
Yeah.
they should have it, but I think it would be awesome if none of them have it.
Yeah, if somehow it's a very original screenplay,
That,
Fast and the
right.
Furious.
Even though Fast and the Furious 1 is Point Break.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the
It's
same
Point
film.
Break. It's the same exact film with
Yeah.
cars and not surfing and skydiving.
And not as cool. Like just not as cool as Point Break.
That's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we have to have
right?
another episode about maybe an episode just about Point Break.
Just about Point Break and Utah, Give Me Two, like all that stuff.
The travesty of the remake also, which
that,
I forgot that was a thing. I forgot it was a thing till I think recently. I was like,
it's a thing.
That happened.
And it's bad.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being good. There's just no way.
Bad, like really bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, like so going back to you mentioned like T2, some other movies that have it.
Do you remember the first time you heard it? Do you remember the first time you heard that phrase? And
there's no way. There's no way I can pinpoint that.
I think if I was to, I wouldn't be able to remember it directly, but in doing the research for this episode, I found out that,
you?
Well, it's like, it's in Star Wars A New Hope, and the scene where, Han is rescuing Luke, or Han and Luke are rescuing Leia, and they're dressed as stormtroopers. Han sees a group of stormtroopers coming and says, "Luke, you got to hurry up. We're going to have company." And I think that's got to be the first time I probably heard that.
And that's actually a different way to say it.
Well, the variations of it are interesting too. There's we're gonna have company. We may have company. I think we're gonna have company. There's a lot of different. We've got company. Obviously.
I feel like We've Got Company. The title of the channel. Yeah. I feel like that one is said the most because it's like short and like to the point, and they always like turn around and they turn back to the camera and it's like we've got company. Like it's just so it's so crazy how much it's said in all these movies. And
I'd like to also like I think that's something that we're going to explore on this show regularly, is just the kind of overall weirdness that people accept in films on a regular basis. There are a lot of film truths that aren't real truths, but we're so used to watching films that you just are like, yep, that happens. Like, guy gets shot in his stomach, he's not dead, he's gonna be fine.
Right.
Like, no matter what.
Well, I mean, it's conversations that we've had a billion times, like about, getting hit with certain items that you should be dead.
Yeah.
When you get hit with these items and you don't die, you are.
Yeah.
You get up and you fight.
Yeah, it's also the utter. I think it's just the utter obviousness that most screenwriters have never been in real combat situations. I think that becomes very clear.
Probably what it actually is.
Yeah, because I think whenever you see the real hyper-realistic films that'll have, hyper-realistic action films like, my brain's going. The one where they disarm the bombs, the Hurt Locker. In the Hurt Locker, it's just this kind of constant oppressive intensity. And at no moment do you have something kind of cute being said, because it's just this death being lingering on the horizon at all times.
Right. It's interesting. That's an interesting way to put it, because that's probably what it is, or why they're doing that, is to kind of take you out of the reality of it.
Yeah.
Right. So they put these little like funny parts, like, I mean, every action movie has like these like comedic parts, but in these moments that are so like you could die right now.
Yeah.
Like you should not be making a joke.
Yeah.
Right. And basically, so they'll make a joke in those moments, and it might be whether it's done on purpose or maybe it's subconscious. Maybe they're subconsciously like, we got to lighten this up a little bit.
Yeah. I think I definitely think it's something that like you don't, I realize more now as an adult that sometimes in big action films or in like, hyper violent films, you kind of need those moments of humor. Otherwise, the humorlessness of it starts to feel a bit oppressive. and kind of
100%. Yeah,
kind of
it
a
gets
bummer.
way too dark.
Yeah, it gets
Yeah.
a little, so you kind of need a little bit of humor in there to kind of make it at least a little, like, just to remind you you're in at a film and there to have fun.
Right. I mean, it's necessary, which again is probably, because I think the We've Got Company it's become not lighthearted. That's the wrong word, but it's like a light term
Hmm.
because it's a thing that's being said in a moment that's like, you should never say that in this moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
never it's never something that is said at an appropriate time.
Right.
I think, like,
You could
it's
just say, "Oh
probably,
shit." You could just say, "Oh shit," and then
yeah,
everybody in the car knows what that means at
it's
that point.
probably been spoken less in the reality of the phrase. Like, I bet it's been spoken less in films when people actually have company coming over their home.
Right. That's a good point. People are just like, "What?" Like, we've got
Yeah,
company. Nobody says
yeah,
that even then
yeah. I
when it's
can't
actually
imagine.
true.
Yeah. Before we did this episode, I was racking my brain trying to imagine if I've ever said it, trying to imagine if I've ever been in a situation
I'm
where
going
I'm
to go
like,
out on a
sure.
limb and I'm going to guarantee that you've never said it.
I just don't think so.
There's
I'm
no
more than
way.
likely.
There's
I,
no
I
way that you
also
ever said
don't know who I would be alerting that we have company that wouldn't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't. I would. I grew up in an apartment, so I was never greeted with someone who woke up in the morning and you says, "Oh, by the way, we have company."
it. Right. It
You never
doesn't
really get to say
really,
that.
yeah, it doesn't really work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that I mean, I can guarantee I've never said it to anyone.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe I said, I have company over because I was talking to someone and they were like, "Why is that so loud?" And I was like, "I have company over."
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I don't even think I've said that because I would say people. I wouldn't say company.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and it seems like a very like old kind of way of talking anyway, like an older generational kind of like way of talking. Like nobody really talks like that now.
No.
Nobody
No.
calls people over their house company currently, unless they're maybe older.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's just. I think it just, like, falls in line with a ton of other kind of just screenwriting tropes that you are like. I think it helps export a script faster. I think if
Yeah,
someone's writing a script and there's like a lot of, I think
it's like a quick
action
transition.
scenes. Yeah, I imagine action scenes are really difficult to write. So in terms of the dialogue happening within them, it's like you have to kind of just other than just all these exclamations and sounds of fear, you got to have some kind of moments of humor, or have something that these people are saying while all the gunfire is going off. So sometimes I
Right.
guess "we've got company," or you know it, or any catchphrase for that matter, like any catchphrase in the heat of battle, I think is done with the with the intent to bring a little bit of lightheartedness into what's otherwise a pretty vicious situation. Like when
I
you
feel,
see.
and yeah, I feel like that's like gotta be the only real reason to write it in there.
Yeah,
Um,
when you see Arnold Schwarzenegger throw a knife at a person in Commando and it penetrates his body into a wall and he's stuck there, and then Arnold throws a smile and says, "Stick around." I think it's just like meant to just make you feel like, oh, everything's fine. We're at a movie here, because you're
right,
not seeing the like after effects of like, this
right.
is something really
Yeah,
horrible just
it's
happened.
almost like a manipulation.
Yeah,
It's a manipulation of your brain,
yeah, yeah,
and they're basically manipulating us, the viewer,
yeah.
into doing exactly what you're saying, right? Feeling like, okay, we're okay, even though he just murdered someone viciously.
Hmm.
We're, we're okay, and also it's hopefully going to be funny, right? And
Yeah.
people are going to have a little chuckle about it. But yeah, nobody has the time. Like after, like in that moment when he threw that knife in Commando
Hmm.
and he threw it and he said, "Stick," he doesn't have time to say that.
Yeah. I mean,
Also,
also,
who is
it's
he
just
saying
like,
it to? Because that guy's dead.
yeah, like he's saying it to a dead person. And it's
Yeah,
like,
or is
not
he saying
only
it to
did he,
us? or he's saying
Yeah,
it to us.
what's so funny is like not only did he just like kill this guy, but he clowns him after he's dead.
Which is kind
And
of
it was,
fucked up.
which
That's
is
a little
just so, it's so crazy to do to
yeah.
someone. Like that guy is definitely dead. And you're
Yeah.
like, on top of that, guess what? This guy sucks.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Like, yeah, I don't even
That's
feel bad.
why I kind of feel like it's now that I think about it, it's like it's almost like a subliminal way to break the third wall.
It's breaking the tension in a little bit.
But
too.
he's breaking the third wall in the sense where he's talking to us because
You mean the fourth wall?
Oh, I'm sorry, the fourth wall, right?
Yeah.
Not the third wall, the fourth wall. So because that guy's dead, so he can't hear what he's saying or even take in what he's saying.
Oh yeah, that's true. He's kind of
talking
saying
to
it.
us.
Yeah, he's kind of giving. So that's weird because that makes me feel like Commando is almost like a really kind of avant-garde film.
It's Deadpool
that,
before Deadpool.
Yeah, it's like breaking,
where they break the fourth wall and talk to us.
Yeah, he's murdering
but
all
they
these
do it
people.
subliminally.
Yeah, he's murdering all these people and protecting Alyssa Milano. But then he's also got a couple of jokes for us. Like, those are not for us. That's not for them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, listen, don't take this too serious. I do this for a living.
Yeah, I wish he looked at the camera. Now that I think of it, he definitely doesn't. But it would have been great if he looked.
But I mean, it's like, it's basically that without him looking in the camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because why else would you say? There's nobody else in the room.
No,
or wherever he was when he did it. Like, was he in the inside or was he in the forest or something?
Oh God, if I remember correctly,
I think he did it to like a house. Wasn't he he threw it into like a house?
I want to say like it was definitely like in a house. It had to have been some kind of cabin and wooden. But I also don't put it past Arnold to like throw a knife into a person and it go through metal.
Oh yeah, which is totally impossible.
Yeah, but I think like if we're talking an Arnold film, it's like this could be a whole other episode.
Yeah, honestly. I know what you're going to say right now.
What's funny
Arnold
about
has
that?
Done everything.
Well, it's like not just Arnold. It's also the notion that if you like the way action films have changed, and I'm changing the subject a little bit here, but the way action films have kind of changed through the years. Like when you watch films like Commando. You have these little moments of Arnold's shooting a big gun and throwing knives through people and things like that. But when you watch kind of like a modern action film, the stuff that happens is so absurd to the point where it's just like everyone in an action film is a superhero now. There's no if you watch a modern Fast and the Furious film, those guys are running through walls and like putting people through them. Even Arnold wasn't doing that.
That's true. That's a good point. Like now when you look at you look at just the progression of the Fast and the Furious films.
Yeah.
The progression of them alone, they went from like just car racers, like children, to like professional, like I don't even like they could be in the CIA, but they have no training.
Yeah, and it's like everything has its escalation, right? So it's like when you watch an older action film, Dirty Harry was an action film. I tried to show it to my girlfriend recently, and she couldn't even get past about 20 minutes without being bored. She was utterly bored by it. But then you compare that to like Die Hard. From Die Hard, in the original Die Hard, John McClane is not even that good of a cop. You think, like you kind of get the notion that he's just probably not very good.
They set him up that way to not be.
And then if you watch the last one that came out, he's like taking out helicopters with a dart. It's like insane. It's like he's doing things that you're just like, oh well, like John McClane is Superman now. He's not not just a New York cop anymore. Like this guy is like Agent John
Maybe
McClane.
That's what it is, like the escalation where they're just like we have to escalate, we have to move forward with the character or people aren't going to like it, or they're going to think.
It becomes interesting to think where it's headed, right? Because then you're just like, where does this go from here? Like someone's like Vin Diesel is going to like load a gun with tigers and then just start shooting them at people. Like, I think that's the only place it could go.
Eventually.
Like the extremity of it is so insane. Like I just watching trailers for modern action films now, and you compare them to the old movie, it's like you watch trailers of 80s films, and it's just lots of smoldering looks and
Right.
maybe like the side of a gun a couple of times. But
Right.
you watch a movie now and it's like someone's shooting a cop car into space but hanging on top of it, and then like parachutes off, does a backflip into an elbow drop, and it's just like it's so absurd in comparison. It makes me feel like where we're headed is going to go. This is how people get old, right?
Well,
Like,
Well,
I'm gonna.
Interesting point, what you just said made me think of it. It's almost like, because I feel like the Marvel movies don't do that, but I don't think that they're not doing it on purpose. I think that because they're superhero movies, we digest it better, and we're like, okay, well, this makes sense because these are fantasy heroes. And then when you watch Fast and the Furious, you're supposed to believe that these are just normal people doing the shit that is happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And I think that's been like a response because of the Marvel films. Like, I feel like because of the success of the Marvel
amped
films,
up, like so up.
Yeah, like because of that,
so
everything needs to be a universe, and everyone needs to be, better than human. Everyone.
Right. Well, that's 100% true. You see, everybody's doing the universe thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's connecting whatever they need to connect, and all this stuff. But that's 100% Marvel. They started.
Oh, absolutely.
They started that. The only other thing that essentially did that in a way, which I'm a huge fan, and I'm a huge fan of, is James Bond.
Right.
Because they've gone through different actors that play James Bond, but there's still a universe there.
Jason Bourne. Because Jason Bourne kind of tried to even have a spin-off film
with Renner, Jeremy Renner,
right?
Cinematic Universe,
Hawkeye. So so Jason Bourne also kind of tried to create its own Bourne universe thing, which I don't think worked out.
And is definitely prior. That was definitely prior to the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think.
Well, not the Renner film. The Renner film, I think, came out within the time span of the Marvel Universe.
Really?
But definitely.
Let's see.
But the original Bourne series, I don't think was intended to be a full universe, but it definitely is now. So was Fast and the Furious. Like, it's kind of everything.
Oh yeah, you're right. The Bourne Legacy came out in 2012, so that's clearly after 2008, where the cinematic. Yeah, so that's true. So maybe they even got it from them then.
Yeah,
but James Bond didn't. James Bond.
No, yeah.
They were doing it in the 60s.
Has there ever been James Bond spin-off films?
There's never been spin-off films, but supposedly the talk is, after this one that just got obviously postponed because of everything that's going on, it was supposed to come out this month. But it's coming cool. But it's coming out in November now because of everything that's going on. So the idea, from what I understand, the idea of the James Bond thing breaking off and having its own universe is one of the female characters that's in the trailer for the new movie, No Time to Die. She's going to be the new 007, just the tag number. She's not going to be the new James Bond. She's just the tag number that MI6 uses, and she's the new 007, and they're going to spin off with her own movies.
See, I want a Q film, like I want that, like that. I want the guy that's making all that cool shit. Like what's that guy got at home?
Yeah, that's
I feel like that's a movie I'd be.
They're definitely like, that's not going to sell, even though it probably might. But
I think it would be cool. I think like the guy making all that stuff has to have, he's probably got a couple of adventures of his own.
Well, they put him out like in the last Inspector. He was like in the field. Not by choice.
Right.
Q was like in the field with James Bond a little bit. So you got to see him out and about, kind of.
So one day we really should tackle James Bond a bit deeper, because you are a super fan. Like you are a true James Bond super fan. So as a James Bond super fan, how do you feel about the exit of Daniel Craig and some of the casting choices that we've heard about, like Idris Elba playing 007, and then I guess they're gonna move it to a woman being 007.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How do
so
you
we're gonna
say bye to Daniel Craig?
So we're gonna obviously go down this path, and it'll probably be its own other podcast. But yeah, I will say, I think that for Daniel Craig, it's time, and it's time to give us a new James Bond.
Hmm.
I don't care if it's Idris Elba. I don't
Hmm.
care who it is. I do think it should be a man. It should not be.
I was really hoping for them to go old James Bond and give me some Timothy Dalton.
That's a bad idea. You literally just wanted to say his name.
Listen, we all have our bonds. Mine just happens to be
You
Tim
know
Dalton.
what? They could do it. They could do it like Old Man Logan.
I think it would be cool.
Old Man Bond.
I think it would be cool. I think why not? I mean, I think there's like a real, with Old Man Logan and all the Taken films. I think there's a space now. With Liam Neeson not doing Taken films anymore, there's like a space for an old man action film to be back.
I mean, I don't know what Timothy Dalton looks like currently, or if he's in shape.
It was great.
Oh, does he look great?
Yeah, he's on Penny Dreadful, I think.
Oh, okay, that's good. I've heard that's a good show. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, and he's on Doom Patrol, I believe, which is amazing. It's a DC universe.
Oh,
show.
I know what that is.
Really great.
Yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah, really great show.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I think it's time. I think it's fine. Whatever. I don't really care. Although I want the guy who's in the Bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just called Bodyguard, I think. He was in Game of Thrones. I can't think of his name.
Okay.
But he was like the next guy that they were talking about being the new James Bond, which I think would be good. I think Idris Elba would be good too.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would watch Idris Elba as the shark in Jaws. I would watch him literally do anything.
Right. He's just great.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, anyway, we're going down a rabbit hole for sure. Which is awesome.
We're probably already past our time, and
I don't think we're past our. You know what? Fuck it. Who cares? It's our own thing, so nobody can tell us to stop.
It's like I'm worried the ratings are gonna go down.
We don't have ratings. There's 0 ratings right now. But yeah, going back to just really quick to kind of cap it off and talking about the We've Got Company. I was trying to find the first movie that ever said it.
I did too.
Did you do the same thing?
Yeah, I did. Did you have any luck?
No.
Me neither. I could not find the earliest account of it. And I was trying to search through all kinds of different, I was opening scripts of older action films and doing word searches just to see if I found it at all. But I could not find the first instance of.
I wonder if it's like in a, could it be in a Western film where they're on horses and then there's like a bunch of horses behind them and they're
totally.
like, we got company.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely
totally possible.
Yeah, I think it definitely could be that. I think it could be. It's most likely going to be something. I think in the 60s and 70s.
Well, when cars were made.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's definitely going to be some kind of. Well, no, I don't even think it's so much when cars, because I do think it could be a Western. I do think it could be like, it could be something that's in a movie. I say 60s and 70s because in my head I was thinking it's got to be in a spaghetti Western of some sort.
Well, that's why. But also, I mean, cars. If I had to guarantee something, which who knows if I'm right or not, but I'm gonna say that it's probably said more times in movies in a car than any other time.
Oh yeah.
So if that's the case, it's probably said when cars or put into movies when cars were around.
Most likely.
Right. But it would be awesome if we found it in like some Western.
That should be our mission for this the entirety of us recording this show.
Find the first movie.
Find the first film.
Well, I want this. So I have this in the about for the channel. I want this to be interactive, right? I want people to have their own ideas about different things that, we're talking about or even things that they come up with that they're like, I've noticed this shit. Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like I want somebody to type in.
Historian.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, this is the first movie that it was ever set in.
Yeah.
And then we could talk about that shit. Right.
Yeah. That would be great.
But that would, but like, it's very, I'm curious about it. you know?
Yeah.
And I think now, like, I'm even more aware of it,
Hmm.
because I've been thinking about it so much
Oh,
with,
now it's gonna be. I'll never hear that line again without without making so like a specific mental note.
yeah, you're going to
Like
make a
now,
note and then you're going to want to talk about it on this
yeah.
podcast.
Now it's like I want to hear every instance of it. Now it's like I'm looking for every time it's ever been said. I want to compile all of
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny, but you know, I think that we're definitely going to always hear it. I don't think it's going away.
No, no. I think it's probably in multiple movies released this year that we haven't even seen.
Or maybe we're the ones who put an end to it because they're gonna be like, "Wow, they're now making podcasts about this shit."
Yeah.
there's
Someone,
there's a channel named after it. We're just gonna that we're done.
yeah, yeah. Someone might see that and be like, you know what? I'm actually maybe we shouldn't use that
Yeah,
line.
or they're like in the middle of writing and they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, this would be good. We've got," and then they're like, "Oh shit, no."
yeah. Someone crosses out and then
Yeah, they
just like
cross it out.
screams.
Someone's coming.
Yeah. Fuck, 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 fuck,
Fuck,
fuck, fuck,
fuck, fuck,
fuck,
fuck.
fuck, 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 fuck.
Yeah. If you say it 5 times, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's funny. But yeah, I mean, listen, we're going to be talking about shit like this. We're going to be talking about dumb, crazy shit like this that I'm sure people think of.
Oh yeah, we're gonna hit all the tropes.
Yeah, and
We've got a lot that to get off our chest about
this goes
stuff.
on forever. This could go
Yeah,
on forever.
I have a whole I can do a whole episode on one scene in the movie The Island released over a decade ago. So
with Leo.
no,
No, with
no,
Ewan McGregor, with Ewan
and,
McGregor,
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
There's a moment in that film that I will talk about until the day I die.
Just a moment.
Just it's one moment, but it's something we can do an entire episode on. We've discussed it a little bit in this podcast, but it's along the lines of
is it like just a ludicrous thing, like a ridiculous
just
thing?
Things we've accepted as being non-lethal in films.
Okay.
we've really just kind of accepted the idea of non-lethality in movies, where if someone, it's like we were saying before, if someone gets shot in the arm, they're kind of fine no matter what. Like if you see someone in the end of a film with a bullet in their arm, they're always like, they might even use it. They might even use the arm in the movie. When
all the cops come and there's always sirens, they're just in a sling.
Yeah, and if anyone knows a thing or two about about medicine, you would know that a one bullet wound to someone's arm could be like, oh, you have to get it amputated. Like
it could be fatal. You could hit a major artery and still die.
You can hit a major artery and die. You can have no use of your arm forever. It can give you a heart attack. There's so many things. There's so many variables that we accept in film as like, this does not kill you. But in the reality of it is like, it 1000% is going to kill you.
Yeah. I think that maybe that's just a thing with like, again, with going back to like screenwriters, right? That they're like, okay, we know that you can get shot in the arm and live. It is possible.
Right.
So because that's possible, we're just going to have it happen to up the stakes a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're going to disregard the rest of the shit.
Yeah. And I think that comes from screenwriters being influenced by only screenwriters, and not taking that much influence from reality, because you have these films where these things happen. Like that's you true. And I have talked about this a million times, but in films, people get hit with fire extinguishers all the time and live.
Like a lot of the time. Have you ever picked up an fire extinguisher?
Yeah, and every time
if I swung it,
yeah, every time I see it happen, when watching the film, I will literally just go dead.
Dead. That's what I say.
It's just like it's wild to me how many times people will have.
That is 1,000%. Wait, that is 1,000% the next podcast, and it's literally going to be called "That Guy's Dead."
Yeah, it's just dead with an exclamation point, like, because it's so many unbelievable. Things. There's so many times in films where you see something that is like utterly lethal in real life, but we've just kind of accepted that they'll be fine.
Yeah, and they get up and just, you know what? We're gonna leave it as a cliffhanger because we don't want to give it away, because that is 1,000%. That's the next one for sure.
Yeah, I could talk about it forever.
Yeah. All right, awesome, man. So, I mean, we went over the subject as much as we obviously could. I
I
mean,
think so.
it's obviously in a million movies. I definitely want people to chime in about things that they see and different tropes or quotes or whatever, or even this
Absolutely.
specific one, even the We've Got Company one. Like I
And we
want
have, I mean, we have no viewers. So if you like, share, and subscribe, we're definitely going to talk to you because we're not talking to anyone else.
exactly right, and yeah, exactly. And we want to keep it interesting, and we want to talk about shit that hopefully what interests us, which we
Yeah.
just feel would interest other people.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. So we're gonna sign off, and we are going to be back with the new Death podcast,
Yeah.
which is going to come God only knows when.
Yep.
But this is my co-host Danny.
All
I'm
right.
Angel,
Party
and
on, Wayne.
party on, Garth. That's our new sign off. We just figured out our sign off.
That sounds perfect.
It's not even our own. We didn't even have to come up with it.
Yeah, it works though. It works
Yeah,
for me.
it 100% works. All right, buddy.
All right.
Later, man.
Have a good one.